happy to be with Anne here today. Anne is a superstar. If you do not already know it, she has been through some amazing things during her entire lifetime. She's seen so much change in the industry. I absolutely love the title of your chapter because it's chapter 16 and it starts off with Defects Are My Jam. How cool is that? Like just starting it off on that. I absolutely love it. So, Anne, tell us a little bit about what you do on a regular basis and just how amazing you are, because you can do that.
Um, well, I work in the semiconductor industry,
Hmm.
and I started my work there quite unexpectedly when I took my first job after college, because I was like, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I took this job at IBM uh, in sort of where they develop their ASICs, which are application-specific ICs.
Right.
And that exposed me to semiconductor manufacturing, but it exposed me to defects that were made in there, and I
Hmm.
was fascinated by them. And so that's why I said defects are my jam, because that's been the consistent thing. And even
Hmm.
when I remove some of that, it's the lens that I view the industry through, and it's
Right.
just enabled me to um, give me this horizontal perspective. I
Nice.
thrive where I can kind of see the bigger picture,
Hmm.
and defects defects happen in the manufacturing process,
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
you try to eliminate them
Hmm.
during manufacturing.
Yeah.
The ones that get through, you try to screen them.
Right.
But then there are still things that come out and you have to learn to live with them. So through circuit techniques and that. And so that's kind of that's that I wrote a sentence about that
Yes.
when I applied for my PhD, like I put in my
Yes.
statement of purpose. And that's what caught my advisor's eyes. It wasn't all the background and stuff because I didn't
Hmm.
have some of the background some of the students had, but it
Hmm.
was like, oh, she's fascinated with this, and I'm looking at that. Then
Yeah.
I don't need to. She already has that, and so that gave me that lens to look through industry, but it,
Hmm.
it expands into it at the end of my end to where I got interested in what I didn't know, sort of data analytics and
Right.
like how do we track design performance and things like that. And so that has, when I left Intel, writing about that and interacting with people who
Hmm.
also had that. And then when now I've been writing for over 5.5 years for an online publication called
Right.
Semiconductor Engineering.
Hmm.
And that's giving me an opportunity to expand my network, expand my knowledge, explore new things, but also leverage my expertise. Like my
Hmm.
executive editors are like, she's my test expert. So let me her talk, let me ask her that. Uh, so I got into the testing of semiconductor industry. That's how I looked at the defect aspect of it.
Right.
But also because I worked at Intel and I worked in a manufacturing group that was
Hmm.
trying to anticipate or, all right, design's going to do this. What do we have to do to prepare for it? Or
Yeah.
here's this technology we want to do to improve test time. We have to have a design to do that. So I was immediately had that horizontal view. I had to build that network
Right.
because I was um the and understanding how technology takes time to develop and all
Hmm.
that. So one of my current, I have a half-time salary position where I'm supporting a volunteer effort to document and project and shape a technology roadmap
Oh,
for it's titled the Heterogeneous Integration Roadmap. And
wow.
it's looking at here are the systems that we can create in these packages, and here's all this technology that cuts across that we need to
Mhm.
develop, and sort of like here's the system, here's the technology capabilities. What do we have to do to develop technology that support the supervisions,
Right.
the future vision of where things can go? So as I started
Interesting.
it, and I started in May. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a pretty audacious goal what they're trying to do, right? And
Mm-hmm.
uh, and they decided to have someone paid to help with this effort because they needed someone
Right.
to help coordinate, keep track, or I say my job is to care what the volunteers do. And
Yes.
I'm right. And if someone cares what you're doing, maybe I think I think actually that's response, and that's actually part of on my website I have my four
Yes.
C's, and it's
Mm-hmm.
care, connect, confident, and curious,
Right.
right? And so caring about the people you work with, the quality of the work,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, that's uh that's part of who I am, and that's part of
It
what
is.
can make me successful is like I care what you're doing, how
Yeah.
you're doing on that. So um it's challenging at times, but it's also I it's challenging because it's a new set of people. So it's just
Right.
building those relationships and sort
Mm-hmm.
of navigating, you know, people who have been leading and then
Right.
sort of stepping aside to let me take on some of the things they were doing. And there's a natural
Mm-hmm.
tension
Of
or
course.
or more of a reluctance to I would say it's a reluctance to let go, right? Whichever one said that
Yeah.
this person would. And so it's uh but I get to work with people who are like at the top of the industry in
Wow.
their niches, right? They have so
Mm-hmm.
much knowledge, and so I'm looking forward to really supporting them in their efforts. So I look at my
Right.
role as I'm supporting, I care about what they're doing. I'm trying to
Yes.
set up some infrastructure and sort of business, what I call business processes, like
Right.
let's check in or let's have a schedule. We're having it interdependent because there's interdependencies in chapters, and wouldn't it be nice if I know your chapter's not complete, but just so people know kind of what you're
Yep.
planning to discuss so they know, like, oh, well, you're not discussing this. I need that. Maybe you can do that next year, right? To have those
Yeah.
discussions to sort of plan, because so that's kind of what I'm doing. Doing freelance work for semiconductor engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I get to pick my topic.
Nice.
Uh, the constraints are we have sponsors who help, that's the business model. So
Yeah.
it's who of our sponsors can talk about that. And
Mm-hmm.
I get to be the curious engineer, and I send
Nice.
at least a 2-page document of here's the background, here's why I'm interested in this, and here are some deadlines, and then here are my questions.
Right.
Sometimes the questions are 3 pages, and
Yeah.
sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
put illustrations in there. So it's not, I don't, not all the people who report on the semiconductor industry have worked in the industry,
Right.
are not necessarily engineers. They're curious, they do that, but
Yeah.
I have the I don't want to say engineering depth, but I have the
Yes.
experience to know, like, well, what about this? And
Yes. You can ask some
about
other
that. So I
questions.
can ask a
Yeah.
little bit
Mm-hmm.
deeper, detailed questions
Yeah.
on
And really
there. And
get.
so
Yeah.
it's been a wonderful opportunity, and it's a great team to work with. And
Yeah.
by writing, my writing, like any skill, the more you do it, the more
Yeah.
you improve, right? So
Definitely.
that's kind of what I've been doing lately. And
Always interesting. Always interesting stuff. But tell us a little bit about why you wrote the chapter because I know when you started off the chapter, and it's also part of the chapter title, it talks about defects are my jam, the engineer's daughter, and it's not just one engineer, it's two engineers.
okay, I
So,
think my mother majored in math,
mm-hmm,
and she worked for a while in industry, and all she told me was, well, I was kind of an industrial engineer, but she kind of
hmm.
hinted that wasn't the title.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I both read the 2 books, Rise of the Rocket Girls, about the
Mm-hmm,
computing pool at Jet Propulsion Lab, and then Hidden Figures,
mm-hmm.
which then became movies. Like, there was a computing pool, right? There's a
Yeah.
steno pool, there's a right. And so she was in the like, you're there to help compute and do the mathematics. So she never, that's what I theorize is what she
Mm-hmm.
did. And so having a father as an engineer, her mom was a mathematician who probably could have been an engineer. She basically told any of our high school classmates, you want to major, like, just major in engineering, you'll get paid more.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
to
I also,
advocate.
but I didn't grow up with a mother who said girls can't do math, right? She
Right.
did math, she did science,
Mm-hmm.
she worked part-time as a substitute teacher because, and she was in demand because she could
Yeah.
walk in and the kids weren't behaving well. She'd do pop quiz. Here it
Ooh,
is.
yeah.
Go do it. Um, and definitely having a father who is an engineer. So I
Mm-hmm.
think having exposure as a child and
Yes.
knowing that that was a profession, and that math was important and those were
Mm-hmm.
fields. So that definitely made me aware.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, these are the skills. This is a profession I can do. And that it was a
Mm-hmm.
profession on that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, I wrote the chapter. I forget, I saw some like, can you do this? Or people like that. I was like, okay. Well, I when I left Intel, I started this engineering story site and I wrote for a
Yes.
whole year. And so I realized I got stuff I can
Yeah,
leverage
you
on
do.
there. And so I basically picked and choose and I used it as an opportunity because I have ambitions to write my memoir. And
Mm-hmm.
so I used the opportunity for myself to like, well, what's the arc
Right.
of my engineering career and story?
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at it as explaining what are some of the things I worked on and
Yep.
what was cool about them
Yeah.
from an engineering objective point of view, like what did it deliver?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so and I had an opportunity to share my most embarrassing engineering
Oh
moment
my
as a young
gosh.
engineer. And I share that again and again because it was like it was so embarrassing. But it just was also a great teaching moment for me
It
to
was,
really
yeah.
understand. And so I wanted to put that in there because I wanted people to know it's okay to make
It
mistakes
is.
early in your career. It is natural, it will happen because
Yeah.
college kind of gives you this foundational stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I know students today get more project related
Oh
stuff, but I
yeah.
still don't think it's the same as just walking into a company and having to do something and navigating things that you
Yeah.
didn't necessarily know. So I think I wrote it for I had my own, for like, this will help me see that.
Mm-hmm.
But in writing it for for people to read,
Yeah.
I thought of like, I want to show them what the engineering life
Yes.
is about. I want to share what's involved, tell the people that inspired me or the people that I worked with. So sometimes the stories, yeah, I worked with this, but it's really so and so story
Yeah.
sometimes. And so and I was part of the story. And so I
Yep.
wanted to also, I think, unconsciously share, you don't do this by yourself. You are
Yeah.
working with others. And
Always.
so by sharing some of that, I did that. And while the topic was, empowering women in STEM,
Mm-hmm.
I only talked anything about women at the beginning and, my mom saying, not hearing that. And at the very end, I
Yeah.
didn't, and that was on purpose.
Yep.
Like, it was like, yeah, I could talk about all the times I was snubbed or was assumed or
Mm-hmm.
that, but I don't think um, that doesn't tell you about the engineering life. It
No.
doesn't show
Yeah.
you what engineers do. And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, the chapter is relevant to male engineers.
Anybody.
It's on that. So that's uh, was sharing a story as a way to pass on a craft.
Mm-hmm.
And I view engineering as a profession came up through the blue collar craftsmanship
Yes.
side, while science came from the elitist, rich people, nobility who had time to investigate why. And
Right.
engineers are about how. How do I get this
Mm-hmm.
done? How do I have a result? How do I make an axe? How,
Mm-hmm.
right? The focus is not so much on adding to scientific knowledge or understanding of nature. Your understanding of nature will definitely inform a
Yeah.
successful engineering application. But as I like to say, we had the Bronze Age and no one knew atoms. No one had any model of what those, no one knew how they figured it out.
Yep, they did. Of
And
course
they
they
passed it
did.
on by apprenticeships, by
Mm-hmm.
talking. I still think engineering I think it's the same with science, is like you
Yeah.
learn, there's so much learning you do on the job.
Oh yeah, for sure. But what would you say to like inspire other people who may not be familiar with STEM or even engineering, and you want them to sort of get involved into this field because it is an interesting field. There's so many cool things you can do with it. You talked about a lot of them in your chapter, of course. But what would you say to inspire some other people to join into engineering? It's a deep question.
It is, right? I'm thinking about it because it's hard work,
Hmm.
and not everybody likes to do hard
Yeah.
work, and right, and so if you like to really get something done or are willing to, one of my friends, Dan, says, sometimes engineering is a grind,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
So the end product or the technology can be nifty in that.
Hmm.
And so that may be the hook. Like,
Ah,
that's really cool. And so that could be, but that can be the inspiration.
hmm.
But if you don't have the ability to be persistent, to work
Mm,
through this was the wrong path, and that it's not a profession for you.
hmm.
Right. So I think it's also recognizing that, um, and that hook, what inspires you technology wise can change,
Yep. Oh yeah.
right? But I think having that is what helps you through the grind
Yep.
of getting that done. And you can also have some happiness and sort of the
Yes.
grind and automation and things like that. But and I have a colleague who's a software executive, and
Mm,
we have dinner every once in a while. And she recently changed jobs. She's like, yeah, it's like, well, this last one, this job I wasn't too, from a software engineering point, but
right.
she said the product was placing of ads. She's not so
Mm,
excited about that, but she
yeah.
had worked in financial technology. She's that
Right.
really hooked her. And so her new position kind of has some aspects of
Nice.
it's it hasn't financial aspects. So you could see it's like I'm a little more excited about
Mm-hmm. Yep.
the technology, right? The software engineering, how to manage a team, how to make them successful. The skill sets are the same, right?
Yep.
And so she's like, yeah, I had to grind through that, but you know, and so I think that's true for a lot of people
Yeah.
in engineering. And if you lose that hook,
Mm-hmm.
then I think you need to figure out what the next hook is. Like
Ah.
that. And I think often it's easy to start in engineering right out of school and like, I'm not really excited about this. And they think that it's the profession. It's like, well, it's the technology.
Yeah.
Or you're in a environment that's not very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also comes through. I've read some of the other chapters,
Yeah.
and that people have shifted, like that wasn't
Yeah.
supportive, or that wasn't me. Like I recruited two people to write chapters, and I made sure I read their chapters, right? And it was
Hmm.
like seeing, reading their stories on that, and the diversity of
Yeah,
the other thing that comes across in the book, and maybe in the other books like this, is even if you don't stay in engineering, I think it gives you a good foundation
it
for
does.
other roles. And I think one of the things, and this was actually the interview I had earlier, I was interviewing with someone who's doing research on systems thinking and engineering
Oh,
leadership. And it's that system mindset, sort of this bigger picture. And I
hmm.
think engineering lends itself to thinking about this bigger picture. I'm not saying all
Right.
engineers like that, but it that's part that's a foundational part, that ability to see different things interacting can
Hmm.
make you successful if you go into a business role,
Right.
if you go into professional coaching, right?
Hmm.
Seeing the bigger picture and seeing that there. So I think that's another aspect from people to inspire people is like, it's a great starting point and you can go on to do other things and it gives you that foundation to be successful in those other things.
Definitely. I love you said that so perfectly, and thank you for that. And if you haven't read her chapter yet, you're missing out on a lot of defects because she talks about those in her chapter. Be sure to get your copy of Empowering Women in STEM. Check out Anne's chapter and all of the other chapters from the different authors that we have. It's an amazing book, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you
You're
so much
welcome.
for your expertise, for your knowledge, for everything that you've done for the industry. You know, always doing amazing things. Thank you so much, and we will see you all soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.